Ready to go.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. Today we're working on an earthquake Versa tiller. Now, the tiller is part of a category of equipment where it only gets used for a couple of weeks every year, and then it just sits the rest of the year and doesn't get used at all. Now, if you've got a piece of equipment like this, and it might be a tiller or a chainsaw or even a lawnmower sitting over the winter, you need to go ahead and drain the gas and run it empty before you put it away, because if you don't, in a case like this, it's a sealed carburetor. We're going to end up replacing the carburetor on this one. So all you new people out there, go ahead and subscribe. It's free and we appreciate it. So let's get started. Okay, I've gone ahead and unscrewed the air filter because it takes 100 turns to unscrew one of these. On this one, you're going to find that there's two 10 millimeter bolts holding the whole shooting match together. And that's most of the screws you're going to need on this is a 10 millimeter. There's one. There's the second one. And the air cleaner will push off to the side. It's got this little air vent in it. And we just leave it over here. And pull the spark plug out so that'll hold it away from us. I always like to use a magnet on one of these when I'm working on them, only to keep my screws so I don't lose them. Now this one I believe is out of gas entirely. And the next thing we're going to do is pinch off the gas line with our handy little pliers and remove the little clip. This one should finger off. It does. Okay. Okay, we didn't get any gas leak on this one. Very nice. Now to get the linkage off of one of these, there's a trick to it, definitely. What you want to do is go over to this end. Let me scoot you over so I'm not in your way. You want to go to this end and get it up like that and grab it with a pair of pliers and just sort of bend it out. And the reason you're doing this is there's studs on the carburetor, so it won't let go as easily as they usually would. Now gently pull the spring out. Now make sure you get a picture of this because the linkage goes on one way, and you want to make sure that it goes back on the same way that it came off. So now our carburetor is free. We've got these little sleeves that we're going to save. One came loose. So let's go over and grab another carburetor and get her running. Now when you order a carburetor for one of these, make sure that you have the old carburetor, which is this one, sitting on your desk and ready to go, and get a good look at it and match it visually as you're buying your new one, or you'll end up with the wrong carburetor pretty easily. I see that a lot where they've got the wrong carburetor on them when I buy them. So let's take our new carburetor and get her in place. Okay, the old gasket still looks good, so we can use that. Easy peasy. Now we're going to go in reverse of the way we did it before. So we'll do the fuel line. And it's just really that easy. Now we're going to take the linkage that we just took off. And you could bend it and pop it off on this end also, but I prefer to do the other end. And if you took good pictures, this is going to be pretty easy. But you always want pictures of your linkage. Now we'll take this over here, and we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to grab it with pliers and bend it around. It'll pop right back in place. Oh, not the first time. Let's try that one more time. And there you go. So people will tell you there's a different way to do it, and I'm sure there's 100 good ways, but that works pretty quick just about every time. Get the spring back in its little hole. Come back to this side and do the spring. Gonna grab our pliers for the spring on this side. It's a little bit hard to get to. You'll grab our needle nose pliers for this side. There it is. And be careful not to stretch a spring out while you're doing this. The spring can be pretty arbitrary to get back on, but it's important that you not tear it up. If you do accidentally stretch your spring, go ahead and get a new spring. Save yourself the effort, because the old one's never going to work right again. Okay, we got our little steel clips on our air cleaner. We'll put our plug back in place and put our air cleaner back on, and we're quite literally done with this. So in 10 minutes flat, you've gone from a rototiller that's not going to work to one that should work just fine with no adjustments. Nope, we're not quite on there. There we go. Remember, you got the little steel sleeves behind these, and because that's also the seal for the carburetor, you're going to want to make sure you get it nice and snug. But don't force yourself. Don't go too terribly hard. I don't get to replace carburetors very often. Usually we're rebuilding them. So this is sort of a treat for me. This will be a nice quick one. We get the air cleaner back in place, and let's test her and see how she runs. Okay, you can see how the motor was trying to cycle. Now what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the idle. You could hear that harmonic when I first started it, and you could see it was idling up and down and up and down. And the reason it was doing that was the idler was set completely out. It was set below what it should be, and the governor wasn't quite sure how to handle it. So what we did was we turned the idle up until it was at the correct idle spot for it, and then the cycling went away completely with it. And you got to expect a little bit of adjustment with a new carburetor. So if you have one of these, especially a tiller or a chainsaw that you might let sit for a whole year and then expect it to start in the spring, even though you haven't started it until last spring, drain the gas. Drain the gas and then run the engine, and don't stop until the thing stalls. When it's completely 100% out of gas, then when you want to use it next spring, you put new gas in it, and it should be good to go. So for all you new people out there, go ahead and subscribe. It's free, and we appreciate it. You did make it this far. So we'll see you next time.